Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 45th President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump.
Hello, Pennsylvania. I'm thrilled to be with you today and talk to you today about the critical decision Americans will be making on November 3rd. That's a big date, November 3rd. There's never been two people and two parties that have been more different than what you have coming up. This election's about the very survival of our nation as far as I'm concerned and as far as a lot of people are concerned. We thought that the 2016 election was the biggest, but there was more sanity there with Hillary, as bad as she was. There was more sanity there than there is today. This radical left group is looking to destroy our country. America's future will either be defined by patriots who love our country and want to build it and make it bigger and better and go back to what we had just a few months ago, where we built the strongest economy ever in the history of our country, in the history of the world, or it will be defined by radical left Democrats who truly, you have to say, hate our country and want to tear it down. And that's what they try and do in places like Seattle and Portland. Joe Biden and the radical Democrats are against fracking. They're against guns. And they're against the Bible, essentially. They're against God, if you look at what they're doing with religion. But think of it, fracking is a big factor in Pennsylvania in your history. You had the greatest year you ever had. Fracking is a big, big factor in Pennsylvania for your jobs and your success and your low taxes. And guns, they want to take away your Second Amendment. They'd obliterate the Pennsylvania energy industry, destroy Pennsylvania's economy, endanger Pennsylvania's families, and demolish the American way of life as we all know it and love it. It's the best in the world. The anarchists and agitators that have brought mayhem to the streets of places like Portland and Seattle are now driving the agenda of the Democrat Party. They want to spread chaos to every city. They want everything to be like a Portland. They'd be very happy, or even a Seattle. They'd be very, very happy with that. They'd like every town and city in America to be like that. But we've stopped them cold, and we always will. It's very easy to do. We have the greatest people in the world. We're protecting our citizens. We're defending our federal buildings, which we had to do. We had to go to Portland. After watching that for 57 days, we went to Portland, and we told the mayor and the governor, get it fixed, or we're going in. And it looks like they're in the process of listening finally. And we're bringing rioters and thugs to justice. In fact, I signed an executive order just recently declaring that anyone who defaces our statues or monuments will face up to 10 years in jail, and that stopped everybody cold. You stopped all of the things that you were seeing in Washington for a long time where they were ripping down statues and monuments. It stopped them cold. 10 years in jail. I want to thank some of your great Republicans who are fighting right by your side. Congressman G.T. Thompson, John Joyce, Guy Reschenthaler, Fred Keller. They're incredible people. They're warriors. I'll tell you what, they're warriors. As well as David Urban, a friend of mine, a great guy, and my Pennsylvania campaign chair, Bernie Comfort, who's been incredible, Republican Party of Pennsylvania Chairman Lawrence Tabus, who has been a friend of mine for a long time, and his family has been a great friend of mine, and our great candidate for Congress, Sean Parnell, who's truly a hero. He's a military hero. He's running against a person that actually lied to you. He was totally against Trump and Make America Great Again, America First, voted for impeachment as soon as Nancy Pelosi told him to. Remember, he was going to be on our side. He was going to be a Democrat on our side. He turned out to be a puppet of Nancy Pelosi and Schumer. And that's Connor Lamb. He's a disaster. He was weak. He's a weak, ineffective guy. Sean Parnell really can do it. He'll be so great. He's going to be one of our greats. But no administration has ever done as much as this administration in the first 3.5 years. And the press, the fake news, doesn't even challenge us on that. We built the greatest economy in history. We achieved record low unemployment for African Americans and Hispanic Americans and Asian Americans and women and young people and workers at all levels of education, including young people without a high school diploma, young people with a high school diploma. And if you look at colleges and any form of education, everybody had the best year, the greatest year. We had 160 million people working First time in the history of our country, we never even came close to that. We brought Pennsylvania unemployment down to the lowest rate in Pennsylvania history, and we're going to do it again already. The numbers are really looking good. But Pennsylvania, prior to the China plague coming in, which was something we'll never forget, we had the best economy ever in the history of Pennsylvania. We had the best year ever in Pennsylvania history because of what we did with trade and all other things. When the China virus invaded our country, we had no choice but to close down this best economy ever. And by doing so, we saved millions of lives. But now we're getting it open. We're reopening. We've already gained a record 7.5 million jobs. It's a new record, despite the fact that the Democrats and Biden want to keep it closed for as long as possible, and we're not going to do that. They want to do it for political reasons. After November 3rd, the big day you have to remember is November 3rd. That's Election Day. But after that, you'll find everything gets opened. But they want to keep it open. They want to keep everything as much as they can closed down, because the only thing they have in mind is November 3rd, and you don't want Joe Biden as your president. That I can tell you. Who does want him is China, Iran, Russia. Everybody wants him because they will have a field day with our country. It'll be the end of our country. We now have 275 miles of wall completed, and we'll have almost everything completed, 500 miles by the end of the year or shortly thereafter. It's had a tremendous impact on people coming into our country illegally. We have record stoppage right now, which is really good. Who would have known it was also good, because Mexico has a tremendous problem with the coronavirus or the China virus, call it whatever you want, but they have a tremendous, one of the most highly, unfortunately, infected countries. And wherever you have the wall, nobody comes in. So we're up to about 275 miles of wall. And it's amazing, the press doesn't talk about the wall anymore. They used to talk about nothing but the wall when they thought it would be impossible to get built. But I got it built, and it's now going to be finished very soon. While sanctuary cities like Philadelphia, can you believe that Philadelphia is a sanctuary city, defies ICE and releases illegal aliens charged with heinous crimes like rape and murder? My administration is surging federal law enforcement into our cities, including Philadelphia, to get dangerous MS-13 gang members and others, predators all, off the streets. And we're taking MS-13 as an example out by the thousands. Last month, I signed 4 groundbreaking executive orders to bring down the cost of prescription drugs. Drug prices had skyrocketed by 35% and much more than that under the last administration. I'm the first president to lower drug prices in 51 years, and the prices will soon drop by 50% or more, because for decades, America was forced to pay much higher drug prices than other nations. You know that very well. A lot of people would go up to Canada to buy their drugs because the prices were, for the exact same drug, were much, much less, 50%, 60%, much less, and people would go there. Other countries have it even better than Canada, where they're a fraction of the cost. So we were subsidizing socialist countries all over the world and funding research and development for the entire planet. Now the global freeloading is over. My order, which I just signed, which nobody thought would be even possible to get signed, requires Medicare to purchase drugs at the exact same price as the lowest price that other countries have. It's called the favored nations clause. So when Germany or somebody else has a phenomenal price for a pill or for drugs of any kind, prescription, then we have favored nations. Whatever they pay, we pay. You'll see 50, 60, 70% lower on prescription drugs, and it'll start happening soon. And don't believe the commercials. The drug companies are running massive commercials. They have nothing but money against me. When you see commercials talking about drugs against me, that means that drug prices are coming down. It's very simple. It's very, very simple. Those are phony commercials, but they're spending a lot of money because they never thought this could happen. They're the largest funder, of anybody for political contributions. I believe they're number 1 or number 2 after the lawyers, maybe. And they're spending a lot of money. A lot of people, a lot of politicians are unhappy, but I'm doing the right thing. So you're going to see massive reduction in drug prices. and we're allowing the importation of low-cost prescription drugs, high quality, very, very safe, from Canada and other nations, so that we will buy. We're not going to need to do that very long with favored nations, but we'll be buying drugs from other countries where they sell them for 40-50% less than we're allowed to buy them in our country. So you're going to see numbers on drug prices over the next few months that will be never heard of before. To defend our farmers and workers, we officially replaced the disaster known as NAFTA, probably the worst trade deal in history, with a brand new USMCA, that's Mexico and Canada. Pennsylvania lost 1 out of 3 manufacturing jobs under NAFTA. It was a total disaster. You know better than anybody. Factories just fled. The workers' jobs were gone. The companies fled to Mexico and other countries. The USMCA will create over 176,000 new American jobs. That will be a huge win for energy and for the steel industries in Pennsylvania. And remember, Biden doesn't want steel, meaning what he's doing, it's going to destroy your steel industry, which is a big deal in Pennsylvania. It's going to destroy fracking. It's going to destroy energy. It will be, where it will really be bad, it'll destroy the stock market and your 401ks, which, by the way, are just about, if you haven't sold, you're just about even to where you were. It's getting very, very close to where it was at the high. In fact, NASDAQ, the market, NASDAQ is higher than it's ever been before. Through the Paycheck Protection Program, we provided nearly $21 billion over 165,000 small businesses in Pennsylvania, saving 1.4 million jobs in the state of Pennsylvania alone. And now what we're doing, and working very hard with the Democrats who would rather not do anything, is we're working similar kinds of things so that people can really sustain themselves and their families. Because it wasn't their fault what happened. It was China's fault. And I stood up to China with historic tariffs, defending our farmers and factories against China's plunder and theft, and you know it. And I took care of our farmers, our ranchers, a lot of our businesses. We enacted tariffs of tens of billions of dollars on China, and a lot of that money was distributed to our farmers and a lot of our manufacturers. We gave to the farmers over a 2-year period for which they were targeted by China $28 billion. Under my administration, China will also be held fully accountable for its lies and deceit unleashed by the China virus. I mean, it's terrible what happened. The China virus should have been stopped. It could have been stopped in China. They stopped it going to China, but they didn't stop it going out to the world. They didn't stop it going to the U.S. or Europe. And now 188 countries have it, and it's flaring up in many countries. Many of the countries that we thought were models of fighting the virus are now experiencing rising caseloads, including Germany, Australia, Japan, Israel, France. It proves the blanket shutdowns. I mean, we're going to get our country open, and it's starting to work out really well. One of the things that are happening, and you're reading about every day, is we have many vaccine candidates are in the final phase of clinical trials, and we expect to have a vaccine available very, very early before the end of the year, far ahead of schedule. There's never been a schedule. The FDA has been great at my instruction, and they're doing it in literally a tiny fraction of the time. This could have taken years, and literally we're in months, and we're very close to having that finalized. And then we're using our military to distribute the vaccine all over logistically. We've also cut mountains of red tape to speed the development of hundreds of new therapeutics and treatments, and that's coming along very well. Remdesivir is already out. It's been very successful, and many other things are happening therapeutically, which is going to be, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, in many respects more important than the vaccine, because you can have people get a shot or have a transfusion and they leave the hospital to get better. We passed Veterans Choice and Veterans Accountability at the VA, which people said could never happen. Accountability, we were able to fire over 8,000 employees who didn't like our vets, who treated our vets badly. They were sadists, they were thieves, they treated our vets badly. Nobody thought you could get either of these, accountability or Veterans Choice, approved. And I got Congress to approve them. I signed the bill a year ago. Now the VA has a 91% approval rating by the veterans and from the veterans. It's the highest approval rating ever in the history of the VA, 91%. And our people are doing a fantastic job. And by the way, for people out there, we got Right to Try, another one that they worked on for 39 or 40 years trying to get. We have the greatest doctors and laboratories in the world. And if you were sick, if you were terminally ill, you couldn't use the medicines that they were making because they weren't approved yet by the FDA, and they might not be approved for a number of years. And yet people were terminally ill. They were going to die, and they weren't allowed to use. They traveled to Asia if they had money. They'd travel to Europe. They'd travel all over the world trying to find a cure. And if they didn't have money, they'd very much go home, and they'd have no choice. They'd go home and they'd die. Now they sign a document, a quick document, an easy document, really a liability or a no liability for the country document. And it's had an incredible, it's the Right to Try incredible new drugs prior to their release. The impact that it's had is incredible. And for the vets, by the way, with respect to choice, they now go out, they get a doctor. If they have to wait in line for 1 week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, 10 weeks, you wouldn't believe the waiting times. Even a couple of days, they go out, they get a doctor locally, somebody who's good, we pay the price, and they get all taken care of. That's one of the reasons we're at a 91% approval record. It's the best ever by far, by many, 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 many points in the VA. All of your lives, you've heard nothing but bad things about the VA, publicity-wise. You haven't heard anything. And I shouldn't say that because I'm sure there are a lot of reporters listening, and they'll go out to look for somebody that's unhappy, but that's the fake news. We're working with the governors to safely reopen our schools in the fall. The Republican governors want them open. The Democrat governors don't. You have a governor that probably doesn't. As a Democrat, they're making it as hard as possible, but people want them open. I'm also fighting for school choice. I believe every parent in America should be empowered to send their child to public, private, charter, religious, or independent schools of their choice. We passed the largest package. This is a big thing because nobody else has been able to do it. We have an all-time record. We passed the largest package of tax cuts and regulations. So we have regulation cuts, one of the reasons we broke every record in terms of jobs, and the largest tax cut ever in the history of our country, saving the average family at least $5,000 per year. We ended the war in American energy. We're now a net exporter of energy, and the average gas price nationwide is down to less than $2 a gallon. Nobody thought that was possible either, and yet we save the energy industry, and we are energy independent. We don't need all these foreign nations that we were willing to go to war with. We're totally energy. We're the largest energy producer by far in the world. After years of devastating budget cuts, we're rebuilding the awesome power of our military. We've invested more than $2 trillion in new tanks, planes, ships, missiles, rockets, and well-deserved pay raises for our troops. We gave our troops 3 pay raises. Our military was totally depleted when I took over, totally depleted. Old planes, old everything. And now we have all brand new, and much of it's been delivered. The rest is coming soon. F-35 fighter jets, everything. We have a great, brand new, beautiful military. Again, nobody else thought that was possible. We'll have appointed close to 300 federal judges by the end of my first term, including 2 great Supreme Court justices. The next president could choose up to 4 more Supreme Court justices. So that will have a big impact on the Second Amendment and life and many other things. So whoever the next president is, you could have from 1, 2, 3, or even 4 Supreme Court justices, and they'll be there for a long time. They get appointed young, and they can be there for 40 or 50 years. And I will tell you, that's going to be probably the most important thing that's going to be happening with the next president. So it's very important that we don't get radical left people put in there by super radical left, because Biden's not running anything. Biden's record can be summed up as 4 decades of betrayal, calamity, failure. Biden signed a joint manifesto with Bernie Sanders. He has an agreement with Bernie Sanders, which means Biden is now running as the most extreme left candidate in history. This manifesto, as I call it, this is far left of where Bernie was. So it was supposed to be going to the right, and it's far left. When asked whether he would defend and defund our police, Biden said, we're going to fund them. He wants to defund. He's going to defund the police. He's going to cut it way down, cut it way back. Just like in New York, they've already cut it by $1 billion, and crime is soaring in New York. Crime is soaring in Chicago. They're cutting back on their police. We are doing just the opposite. Yesterday I was in Florida, and I got the entire law enforcement group, including all the sheriffs in Florida. They endorsed Donald Trump for president. Very strong endorsement. Biden will take away your guns. He'll take away your Second Amendment. Biden will ban fracking, killing over 600,000 Pennsylvania jobs. And Biden will side with the anarchists and the agitators, the mob that you've been watching in Portland and Seattle. They want all cities to be like that. Biden supported every globalist attack on Pennsylvania and Pennsylvania workers who really like Trump. Remember, we won Pennsylvania the first time in many years for a Republican. And everything I said I was going to do for Pennsylvania, I've done, but much more so. And again, you had the greatest year you've ever had until the virus came in, and now we're bringing it back again and bringing it back fast. But I supported and did things that nobody thought was possible in Pennsylvania, including many companies and factories and plants moving back. NAFTA, TPP, Korea, and China's entry into the World Trade Organization was supported by Biden. They were all a disaster. He voted for the war in Iraq, which was a disaster, and we're getting out. We're very close to getting out of that, in Afghanistan and many other of these endless wars. They've fought them for 20 years. They just keep, they're policemen more than they are fighting as soldiers. And he voted for mass amnesty. Bob Gates, chairman of President Obama's Secretary of Defense. You know, Bob Gates, respected guy, his Secretary of Defense, said that Joe Biden never made a correct foreign policy decision in his life. And I actually think they're friends. It's a pretty good friend to have. But he said that's exactly what he said. He said he never made a correct foreign policy decision in his life. And now Biden supports raising your taxes. They want to raise your taxes 3, 4, or even 5 times. And on businesses, they want to put all your businesses, which is basically from a lot of standpoint, your jobs, out of business. He wants to pack the court with radical far-left judges, indoctrinate your children with what they're teaching in schools, which we're ending, and we've ended. And they want to have open borders, sanctuary cities, but open borders. They want to rip down your wall. Think of this. Wants to rip down your wall. We're spending billions of dollars building one of the most incredible structures you've ever seen. It's one of the largest developments ever in the history of this country. Think of that, the wall. It's, hundreds of miles long, over 500 miles. They want to rip down your wall. It's what kept a lot of very, very sick people out of our country, and now it's keeping bad people out of our country, people that we don't want. People are coming into our country legally. And the biggest supporters I have on that are the Hispanic supporters, because they know exactly what's happening better than almost anybody. They want to Biden wants to abolish borders. And when I say Biden, it's Biden, but he's really controlled by the far left. So they want to abolish borders, stop all deportations, end the prosecution of illegal border crossers. Think of it. Somebody comes in illegally, bad people, murderers, whatever they may be, and they want to end prosecution for those illegal border crossers. He wants to totally support sanctuary cities, which is a sanctuary for a lot of very bad people, incentivize illegal alien child smuggling, and also, if you look at what's happening with women, where they smuggle women, it is a horrible thing. But this crazy plan that they did will make it almost incentivize illegal alien child smuggling. And it's just incredible. And you have to add women into that, because if you look at what's happening worldwide because of the Internet, it's tremendous what's happening. It's called trafficking. And they traffic in women and they traffic in children, actually mostly in women, and all because of the Internet. It sounds like something that would be ancient, an ancient crime. It's not. All over the world, it's at the highest level because of the internet. They want to provide taxpayer-funded lawyers for illegal aliens. Think of that. You come across illegally, you get yourself a nice lawyer, Perry Mason maybe. Provide government health care for illegal aliens. Free community college for illegal aliens, so they get college. Isn't that nice? They don't give that to our people. End all travel bans, including from jihadist regions. Grant mass amnesty. So mass amnesty for everybody. That's tens of millions of people potentially. End cash bail, releasing dangerous criminals, including murderers, onto the streets. Look at what's happening in Philadelphia with your prosecutor, your head prosecutor. People are getting out so easily for creating crimes that nobody can even believe, including murder. They want to increase refugee admissions by 700%. By the way, this is the agreement that Biden has with the radical left and Bernie Sanders, which is far worse than what Bernie Sanders ever was. He went further to the left by a lot. Destroying our country. Incentivize prison closures. They don't want to have prisons. That's nice. Free federal housing for former inmates. They want to have federal housing free. If you go to jail, you're an inmate, you get free federal housing. What's that all about? Mandate net zero carbon emissions for homes, offices, and all new buildings. Mandate zero carbon emissions from power plants so that your electric bills will skyrocket while allowing China to continue polluting and also to have much lower cost factories. They want to end school choice and abolish charter schools. And they want to ruin the suburbs by allowing people, low-income people, to go into the suburbs and have low-income housing built in the suburbs. This is something that's been going on for a long time. When Obama came in, he made it much stronger. And now they want to put Cory Booker. He's another beauty. They want to put Cory Booker of New Jersey in charge because he's got some great ideas. And those ideas will destroy suburbia. It'll destroy housing values. And it's already, where it is just a terrible situation. Communities have been destroyed with it. Build low-income housing in your suburbs. So you fight all your life to get a great house in the suburbs, and then they announce, hello, we're going to build a nice low-income job right next to your house. You can imagine what that does to the value of your house. And by the way, large portions of people in the suburbs living in the suburbs are minorities. They're Hispanic, they're African American, they're Asian. So we're not talking about what immediately people would think. Large numbers, it could be 30 and 35%, I'm hearing, are people that have fought to get to the suburbs, and their large numbers are in minority communities, a large number of African Americans and Hispanic Americans and Asian Americans. And they're very happy about this. They've been trying to do this for years. Nobody did it but me. So we ended the rule, and the suburbs are now protected. I just want to thank the people of Pennsylvania. As you know, you supported me in the primaries, and then you supported me in the general election. I love Pennsylvania. I went to school in Pennsylvania. I went to the Wharton School of Finance at University of Pennsylvania, and I loved it. I loved it. And, you know, Joe Biden likes to say he's from Pennsylvania, but he's not. His family abandoned Pennsylvania. I guess he was about 10 years old, maybe, and they moved to Delaware. He's not from Pennsylvania. He left Pennsylvania. You know, when he comes around, he only goes to Delaware to make speeches. He goes back to the basement, but he goes to Delaware to make speeches. But, you know, it's crazy. He is saying he's from Pennsylvania, and it's wrong. His family left Pennsylvania many years ago when he was, I believe, 10 years old, and they moved to Delaware. So it's not only isn't he from Pennsylvania, but he left Pennsylvania. And I'll never let Pennsylvania down. I've done things that nobody thought were possible with your plants, your factories, your steel. Steel was a dead business, and now they're expanding steel. And by the way, we'll catch up to where we left off very soon because the China virus obviously had set us back a little bit. But we're going to be, next year will be a better year. I believe next year will be a better year than last year because things are looking that way. Once we get our country open, there's tremendous enthusiasm, and you see that in the job numbers, the retail sale numbers, and every other number. So I just hope you can get out and vote on November 3rd. It's been a great honor to speak to you, especially because it happens to be Pennsylvania. We're doing a real job. I've never let you down. We've done much more than I said I was going to do and now we're going to do it again. We said, make America great, and we're making it again, and now we're doing it a second time. So I just want to thank you. We're putting America first. We're putting America above all these nations that have ripped us off for years, stolen our jobs. They've taken our plants, our factories. They make our product. We sell it. They sell it back to us. No taxes, no nothing. And they made it impossible. All of that's changed, and you see it's changed at a level that nobody has ever thought possible, including the biggest job numbers we've ever had in our country. So Pennsylvania, November 3rd, and it's an honor to speak to you. And have a good rest of the day. I will see you soon. I'll be there soon. And we'll be talking again before the big event, November 3rd. Thank you all very much. Great honor.